that state convicts your nominee for president, you might be in a cult. If you claim you back the blue but want to defund the police, and the police go to your nominee's house to retrieve national security secrets, you might be in a cult. If you're supporting a guy whose felony convictions prevent him from getting a security clearance, you might be in a cult. And if the guy you're supporting for president has felony convictions that prevent him from going to Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Cambodia, Canada, Chile, China, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Egypt, Ethiopia, Hong Kong, India, Indonesia, Iran, Ireland, Israel, Japan, Kenya, Macau, Malaysia, Mexico, Morocco, Nepal, New Zealand, Peru, Philippines, Singapore, South Africa, South Korea, Taiwan, Tanzania, Tunisia, Turkey, Ukraine, United Arab Emirates, and the UK, you might be in a cult. Do you believe in states' rights? Except
50 Cent and Ben Crump will meet the congressional leaders tomorrow, which is actually today, June 5th, in D.C. to discuss the Black wealth gap, the widening of the wealth gap, and corporate America's marginalization of Black-owned companies. 50 Cent. And I just want to say this. This has nothing to do with 50 Cent, but everything to do with the fact that people think that Black celebrities are the ones that need to be speaking for the Black community as a whole. Yes, his influence is valid, but where is the Black economist? Where is Black academia? Why is it that someone who has a job that is not common amongst the Black population as a whole, meaning the majority of Black people are not entertainers making millions of dollars, why is it that his voice is the loudest and being allowed to sit with congressional leaders? Why do you not have people like Professor Julianne Malveaux, who is a Black economist who has a degree from MIT, who actually sat at the congressional hearing with Republicans and Democrats fighting for reparations in this country for Black people? This is a reminder that people like Mike Johnson, your current Speaker of the House, shot down reparations about 4 years ago when she actually sat on that panel and discussed the need for reparations for Black people and the Black wealth gap. This is an opportunity for people in Congress to actually speak to Black people who study this information, who study Black culture, who are part of the Black community, and who are part of Black academia, to give actual voice to what our issues are in an educated way. Now, do I think 50 Cent should still be there? Sure. He is a wealthy Black man, but he should not be the loudest voice in the room. He should not be the main person who everyone listens to. You need Black academia. You need Black economists in the room talking about Black wealth because they study this information. They're not just the beneficiaries. Let's have a.
She is 100% right, as you don't need me to tell you that. Welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known in the nation's capital again today and all week long. Lots and lots and lots of news. Look, you remember COVID and when they were giving out the stimulus and people wanting more stimulus, and there was this prevailing thought, especially in the Black community. If you're Black, you understand that you don't get anything, as they say, for free. Nothing for free. You figured somehow that was going to come back, and folks were going to have to be paying for that. And in a lot of ways, we did. Now, there's been an argument for years, decades, about reparations, and folks in Evanston, Illinois, we're going to get to this today. They got reparations of a small amount, $25,000. Black residents did. Better than nothing, I understand that, but guarantee you, we're going to talk about this morning, those folks are going to have to pay that money back. We're also going to talk about the Fearless Fund this morning. They lost again in court as the assault on DE&I. The assault, let's just throw out the acronyms and everything else. The assault on Black people. We talked so much yesterday about the assault and the disrespect of Black women that the Black women have had to endure forever. This is another assault on Black women, but it's assault on Black people in general. Because the Fearless Fund was a fund to give money to Black women owned businesses. And white folks are saying you can't do that. And that's just a pure language right there. We don't no need to couch it. You know, we're journalists here. We're supposed to write things and say things in a politically correct way. Let's just be real about it. White folks are coming for y'all, coming for all of us. And it don't get too much darker than I am, so I know I'm target A. Black women are target A1. Black men are so lost in general. They better wake up. You know, this young lady we just saw, she talked about 50 Cent. 50 Cent is one of those guys who is going to stand up, but he's in the minority. He's got spine, he's got backbone. People don't like 50 Cent because he's just straight in your face, but he's going to stand up. But he's, like I said, he's in the minority. But that's unfortunate. That is totally unfortunate. We're going to talk about that this morning in the Federal Appeals Court. Also, this is interesting. I just want to bring this note up because it's very interesting. That judge down in Florida, the Trump judge, they have been receiving 1,000 complaints about her a day. And now a federal court says we will no longer accept any complaints about her anymore. And I just keep saying, and I've been asking folks, talked to some folks at the White House yesterday. I was asking folks, why don't this special counsel, why hasn't he dropped that case? Because you can go back and revisit it and go on to the Washington case, the January 6th case. The fix is in, folks. The fix is in. Until you show me otherwise, the fix is in. Because come July 11th, when Donald Trump is sentenced in New York, that's not going to change anything. And he's not going to prison. The fix is in. Something great happened yesterday at Revolt. You know, Diddy owned Revolt. Well, the employees have bought out Diddy's ownership stake. That's amazing. It's a great story. Love to bring it to. It is Black Music Appreciation Month. De La Soul, the legendary group, hip hop, they're going to be showcasing their highly anticipated documentary called Chapter 3, beginning this weekend on YouTube. It's going to be a limited run from June 7th through June 14th. It's going to be on the band's Facebook, Twitter, and official website. We're going to talk about that this morning. And Flavor Flav is doing Flavor Flav things. Flavor Flav got the news like everybody else that Red Lobster, you know, Red Lobster's like long been considered like the Black 5-star restaurant for some reason or another. The biscuits are great. We know the biscuits are great. But Flavor Flav is in talks to do something spectacular. We're going to talk about that this morning. And speaking of Black Music Month, I want to throw this in. So in order to be, a lot of times, and it's unfortunate, but it's true, in order to be successful, in order to be like at the top of your game in this crazy world we live in, you also have to be cutthroat. You have to be evil in a lot of ways. You got to be mean. You got to be, in some ways, unlikable. And I say all that to say this. It is a very personal feeling about this great culture writer named Touré. Because there's a lot of things about Touré I don't like, as far as the interactions I've had with him. I won't even go too far into that because that's just my personal feelings. But I do say this about the man: there's no better cultural journalist than Touré. No, I mean, he has his finger on every pulse there could be. He is. If you want to know anything about music in particular, Touré can school you. And I mentioned Touré because he wrote a piece in his Black Music Appreciation Month. I'm sure he's going to write more. But we about a week ago we talked about the best albums ever according to Apple, at least in the last 65 years. And one of the things I said In passing, though, I didn't harp on this. I was harping more, as people would expect, more on Prince and debating whether Sign of the Times, which I believe is the best Prince album ever and one of the best, if not the best album in the history of music, Sign of the Times. But Purple Rain was getting all the love, and Purple Rain was like the fourth best album according to Apple. Of course, my girl Lauryn Hill, who I used to have this like amazing crush on Lauryn Hill until, of course, she became and not dependable on her shows. But she was number one, Miseducation, an album that I played like 5,000 times when it came out. I played that album more than I played Thriller. I played that album more than I played Purple Rain. Miseducation was it was like my anthem, that whole album. But Teray talked about something that, like I said in passing. I said in passing that Off the Wall and Michael Jackson's family had always said, and they've said it to me, and various family members, I should say, and discussion when we talked about music, they always said Off the Wall. Michael Jackson himself always said Off the Wall was his greatest work. And I always thought it was Thriller, but I always knew that there, I like music a lot, and I always felt like there were some things about Thriller, not bad things, but things about it that did not qualify it as his best work. But here's what Teray said. He says, here's the thing. An album in its highest form is supposed to be a singular thing. Now listen carefully, because I've read this thoroughly, what Teray wrote. And like I said, you can't talk, unless you're talking to Stevie Wonder, which I happen to have been able to do a number of times. You're not going to get somebody more in tune and more better to talk about music than Teray. And he says the songs should all work together to build one statement. Talking about an album. There should be a sense of sonic and or lyrical cohesion that suggests that all of these songs were put together to reflect an idea. He mentions Prince's Purple Rain, Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, Beyonce's Renaissance, and of course, the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill as all albums that have that sort of cohesion. But he says the songs congeal to create a singular argument about how music should sound and to explain what the artist is thinking about at that moment in their lives. It says, I believe that a cohesive album is more difficult to create and more powerful to consume than a not so cohesive album. It brings you into a specific world and opens up a concrete conversation about who the artist is right now. So Teray argues, and I totally agree, that nowadays, today, you're hard pressed to find artists who make albums that are cohesive, are hard because, he says, and I agree, they require vision and the desire to say something. Many artists today make music by telling various producers that they need beats. Then a number of producers, plethora, as he says, of producers will send beats and the artist will rhyme or sing over them. That generally does not lead to a cohesive album. The seed of each song comes from a vastly different place. So let's get to the point. Off the Wall is an extremely cohesive album. All of the songs come from the genre of disco. The album is perhaps the greatest distillation of what disco is, Teray argues. And the songs reflect the world of a young man trying to find love. He dances, he loves the club life, he falls in love, he gets his heart broken. It's almost like a movie about what it is to be an early 20-something in the big city. And in that way, it speaks to who Michael Jackson was at that time. He was then a former child star who loved to dance for dancing's sake, but also he was not certain that he was going to make it as an adult. Because it's very abnormal for a child star to become an adult star. Of course, there have been some who have made that leap, as Teray notes, but it's very rare. And before Off the Wall was released, Michael was, he was not sure that he would be this big time superstar. So he was at a crossroads in his life, and he was in the clubs If you can Google and see Michael at Studio 54 a lot in New York. He was really finding himself, as they say. And all of that got poured into Off the Wall. Thriller, of course, and I said this when Thriller was out. We all love Thriller. I love Thriller. Everybody loved Thriller. But Thriller was really the compilation of the 9 best songs that Michael and Quincy Jones put together in the studio. If you know or recall or don't know, there were 60 some odd songs that Michael and Quincy worked on for the Thriller album, and 9 made the cut. They were all, I mean, the album, without question, was great. But just because an album sells a lot does not make it a great album. We see that today. But I just wanted to bring that up, Black Music Appreciation Month. And it's an appreciation for some of the greatest music, and of course, Michael Jackson being the greatest pop entertainer ever. And so, thought it was great because Off the Wall, what happened with Off the Wall was a precursor to what was to come, and in a sense that, and more people should do. Here's where you could follow Michael Jackson, his example. Michael Jackson was so devastated that Off the Wall did not receive a Grammy Award. He was absolutely, but he was not just devastated. He was angry. And you may have heard the story, it's not a myth, that he took his sister LaToya's lipstick and wrote on the mirror in their bathroom, "They will not be able to ignore my next album." He was so angry. And he went in that studio with Quincy and Rod Temperton and others. And what came next was the biggest selling album in the history of the world, Thriller. So what I'm saying is channel your anger, because I was angry yesterday, I'm angry today. And now I need to channel that into something. I need to follow Michael and make the next thing the greatest thing. And that's what we're going to do here at Let It Be. We're going to channel this, and we're going to make this the great thing, a great thing. We're going to make this great. Okay? Y'all with me? Oh, God. When we get the Feel Is Fun, I'm about to read out loud a direction, y'all. See, I'm all wired this morning. Few hours sleep. Never enough sleep. But the Feel Is Fun, and I'm so angry about this too. The U.S. Federal Court of Appeals suspended a venture capital firm's grant program for Black women business owners, ruling that a conservative group is likely to prevail in its lawsuit, claiming that the program is discriminatory. I think we got a clip for this, but it's just infuriating. They were giving money, grants. Let's listen to the clip.
For a longer video because we need to cover some stuff. An underemphasized reality of the law is just how often laws that were created for the explicit purposes of combating racism against Black people and remedying historical, systemic, and pervasive anti-Blackness get used against Black people. And the perfect example of that is what's going on with the Fairless Fund in Atlanta right now. An Atlanta venture capital fund started a small business grant program for Black women and awarded $20,000 in small business grants to Black women. And then a conservative hate group calling themselves the American Alliance for Equal Rights. And yes, I call them a hate group, not an organization or a nonprofit. Start calling these things the essence of what they are. Sued that Atlanta venture capital fund using Section 1981 of the Reconstruction Era Civil Rights Act of 1866. Which prohibits discrimination on the basis of race when making and enforcing contracts. Never mind that the grants given by the Fairless Fund are not actually a contract, but again, a grant, a gift, a charitable donation, which is what the Atlanta Venture Capital Fund argues. But the explicit intention of the Civil Rights Act was to stop and combat the discrimination against Black people. And now you have a white organization using it to sue a Black venture capital fund for using their own money to give to some Black women, because otherwise Black people, both Black men and women together, only received the combined 1% of all venture capital funding. And if judges, courts, or conservatives cared even a quarter as much about originalism and intent and purpose behind the law as they pretend to, that would matter here. But it didn't matter to an 11th Circuit Court of Appeals that just ruled 2-1 that the Fairless Fund violated the Civil Rights Act. And why is that the ruling? Because 2 of those judges were appointed by Donald Trump, and you know what they're on. And while I have you here, let's talk about the American Alliance for Equal Rights, shall we? The American Alliance for Equal Rights exists for no other reason than the exact opposite of its name. First, it was started by Edward Blum, which, if you don't know, is the man responsible for going after and successfully getting affirmative action overturned. So let's make no mistake about what's happening here. These are people who are deliberately and systematically going after anything they perceive as providing any kind of educational or professional benefits to marginalized people, namely Black people. And I say perceived as creating more opportunities for Black people because let the record reflect that white women are the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action in education. And what's worth noting here is that whenever we talk about affirmative action, organizations like this one and opponents of affirmative action always reveal their implicit belief system that white and non-Black people are entitled to admission to these schools, entitled to these seats and these resources, and that they're somehow being stolen and taken away by undeserving and unentitled Black people, right? Their argument is always that we are taking from them, that we are taking from deserving white people, that we couldn't possibly gain access without them and their resources in their seat. But here they are now going after Black women for giving their own money to Black women. They have quite literally inserted themselves into private business to stop equity. I say equity because equity and equality are different. Equality is providing everybody with the same thing. Equity is recognizing that everybody did not start from the same place. So in order to put us at the same equal footing, to make us whole, some people who have been given less need to now be given more. Not that what's happening here would even count as equity. Not that even what affirmative action is would count as equity. Because again, both these systems exist because they recognize that Black people are not being given at all, that other people are not being given. This means by no means that everybody has even been provided with an equal footing and some people need more. We have not even given equal. We are so far from equity and equality. This is people saying, hey, 1% of venture capital funding is going to Black people. 1%. And we are giving all of $20,000. This is not equity. This is not equality. This is Black people getting crumbs and Black people trying to do their best to make sure that other Black people can at least get those crumbs, and white people can't even stand for that. But the American Alliance for Equal Rights is explicitly going after equity, and they know that because they said it.
Yep. And as Power 96 points out, they have, as he refers to it, as a 6-3 conservative U.S. Supreme Court. So you know that as this case rises up to the Supreme Court level, they have virtually no shot. This is another reason why a lot of folks was really getting on the president when he took office, when they had, for a brief time, a majority in the Senate, majority in the House, and of course, having Biden in the White House. There were cries to expand the court because you can't fire a Supreme Court justice. You can't get rid of the crooks on the Supreme Court, and the racists on the Supreme Court. But what you could do is, what you had an opportunity to do was to minimize the damage that they could do by even that joker out a bit. Venture capital funding, Mike V says, for Black startups for 2024 is down 70% since corporations announced their commitments to DE&I and venture capital to Black equity initiatives. He says we get 48.48% of market capital. And so this spills over to something else that really Greer sent me this morning. Well, I don't know when she sent it. I didn't see it until this morning, but and I read through it. This ruling comes as Evanston, Illinois, a Chicago suburb, which was credited when we bought this story a few times with launching the country's first government-funded reparations programs for Black Americans. It paid out nearly $5 million to 193 of the town's Black residents over the past 2 years. But now, a conservative advocacy group has filed a class action lawsuit to kill the program, arguing that, yes, it discriminates against non-Black residents. And you know what's going to happen? You can book it. They're going to win. And not only are they going to win and stop this reparations program, but I guarantee you that they're going to seek to get that money back from these Black residents. Reparations argument, while remains alive, the reparations is dead in America. And yet everyone else has received reparations. We don't need to go down the whole list. And the U.S. certainly has ensured that the victims of the Holocaust was repaired in so many different ways. Every single government, every single administration, every single Congress, Black, white, all, they have made sure that Jewish individuals were repaired and other victims of other mass crime. But the biggest mass crime in the history of the world, the transatlantic slave trade, which extends down to this day, yes, because of mass incarceration, redlining, y'all know the story, because of what we're talking about now. And now they're saying, see, what they're showing us is better than they could tell us. In that, this is why no matter what Donald Trump does, they want him to occupy Pennsylvania Avenue, the Oval Office. He got the court in his pocket, and he's got people on Congress. How do you have a Marjorie Taylor Greene? How do you have a Lauren Boebert as a U.S. Congressperson? How do you can go down the list. It's not just them two, but they're the most obvious. I mean, you talk about, so what you'll have is very, very unintelligent individuals in Congress and a convict in the White House. This is America. And the best option that they've given those who don't want that is an 81-year-old man. It's somebody's great-grandfather. Now, certainly with age comes wisdom, for the most part. And for the most part, you really can't, you can, but the basis for attacking or saying that Joe Biden hasn't done a good job is you can't really produce evidence suggesting that he hasn't done the best possible job, and especially considering the fact that he is still in the midst of, and we were at the White House yesterday, and shout out to Ashley Fields. We were hanging out a little bit with the president as he was making the announcement about the border. And he has spent not only the 3.5 years in office trying to do presidential things and trying to make, I mean, let's say this, make America fair again. But he spent 3.5 years trying to clean up that 4 years of just that 4 years of total disaster. Everybody we talk to, we've talked, and I've said this, I sound like a broken record, that's okay. But we've talked to people from all walks. We talked to young folks, we talked to people from other countries. And what are you, crazy? What are y'all crazy? Germany, Mike V says, is still paying reparations to victims of the Holocaust to this day. Right. And that was prompted by American leadership. That was pushed, I should say, by American leadership. Power 96 says, just like the black farmers, white farmers get paid and nobody complained. When it was time for the black farmers to get paid, white farmers filed a lawsuit. Y'all got to read the room and see what's happening here. So when we talk about how they want to turn the clock, not just back to civil rights days and the Jim Crow days, but well beyond that. And the problem here is we talk white women are willfully, for the most part, being victimized by white men. Willfully. Because they go along with it. So your wives support your husbands, you stand by your husbands, but you can't. How do you support wrong? My wife is not going to support wrong. And white women are being told, have been told many times what they can and can't do with their own bodies. And so now it affects black women. But they going along with black women ain't going along with it. They are suffering the consequences of it. White women capitulate. And here we are. Here we are. So when they start blaming black folks and black women in particular, because you got this law and that law, and they get on black women and black people talking about, oh, y'all don't vote, y'all don't do that. Well, put the blame where it belongs. White women. Because you can put your man in your place. Women, listen, let's make no mistake about it. The most powerful person on earth is a woman. Need I say more? And I tell you, one woman they need to take power from is that Judge Aileen Cannon down in Florida. She has received 1,000 complaints a day. They said in 1 week, that CNN story, another story said a day. And they won't take any more complaints against her. But I just, for the life of me, don't understand why this special counsel, unless I do understand, why he continues to put up with her. You say, well, he's the prosecutor. He has no choice. Yeah, he has a choice because he has another case that's sitting there with Judge Tanya Chutkan. Because that's what has been taken for Trump. It's been black folks holding him accountable. Tish James in New York, $500 million in penalties for massive business fraud. She held him accountable. New York District Attorney Alvin Bragg, black man, he got the 34 convictions a couple of weeks ago. Let Judge Chutkan get a hold of Donald Trump here in the nation's capital for the January 6 crimes, and just leave her alone. Send her along. I do believe that I've said it 1,000 times, I'll say it one more time, drop the case in Florida. Not to let him off. It's to get to the real, as they say, the nitty gritty in Washington, where that is some serious charges he's facing in DC. It's serious. Her case, Judge Cannon's case, is serious too. It's extremely serious. Selling classified documents to enemies and things like that. But she's the judge. She is sleeping with the enemy. And I say that figuratively with questions as to whether it's literal. But Jack Smith, who you see pictured there to the left, or he's the guy that's not Trump and not Aileen Cannon. And I don't know what his end game with her is. He maybe his ego is getting in the way. But just drop it for now, because you can always go back. It's not double jeopardy is not attached. You can go back. We'll go get the other convictions. Let District Attorney Fonnie Willis go move ahead and do her thing. But they've messed that up so bad. They got a hearing scheduled for October as to whether she can stay on the case. It's an appeal hearing. So which means that case will not happen this year. That the case against Trump and down in Atlanta is not happening this year, and may not ever happen. Of course, if he wins the presidency, it's not going to happen. So that's where that sits. Moving on, some really good news. Revolt TV employees have acquired Diddy's majority ownership stake in the company, ending his 11-year run as the owner of the network that he launched in 2013. Revolt said its new ownership structure provides employees an equity stake as the company, stake in the company, while it remains Black owned and operated. Good for them. Diddy, as they say, he made his bed, and now he must lie in it. And no one is losing any tears or sleep because he is forced out of Revolt. But good for those employees. And we're talking about a big group of African American men and women that are now owners of Revolt TV. So we urge you to support the Black press, but we also urge you now to support Revolt, Black owned. Big sis Monique says, "Yep, cornball." She never cared for the cornball. Talking about Diddy. Yeah, Power 96 says Trump knows that he is going to prison if he goes to trial in DC. Because, yep, that Judge Chuckin does not play, as he said. Again, Black Music Appreciation Month. De La Soul is joining the fun. At least they're going to provide you with some fun. The legendary hip hop group is set to showcase their highly anticipated documentary beginning on June 7th. It's called Chapter 3. It's a long run. It's going to be on YouTube and the band's Facebook, Twitter, and their official website. Chapter 3 chronicles their studio sessions and particularly those sessions that led up to the 2023 re-release and remaster of De La Soul's entire catalog, one of the most storied music collections in the history of hip hop. It marks the first time in 3 decades that Paz, Dave, Maceo, and Prince Paul ventured into the same studio together in service of a De La Soul project. Chapter 3 captures the journey of these 4 grown men with a legacy to protect, as well as the memories and moments that helped them build it. The documentary provides an intimate look at the creative process, camaraderie, and passion that has defined De La Soul's enduring legacy. Check it out. Those guys, remember they used to talk about positive rappers. Well, that was De La Soul for sure. So it's some great stuff. Black Music Appreciation Month. Something to bop your head to. And how about my man Flavor Flav? Flavor Flav, earlier this year, him and Chuck released a song called "Everywhere Man," and it's a fun song. It's really fun. If you haven't listened to "Everywhere Man," you should download it, whatever platform you use. It's a lot of fun. It won't win any awards, but it certainly is worth listening to. But he has been everywhere. And now, when news came about the whole situation. I don't know if you heard about Red Lobster filing for bankruptcy. Well, Flavor Flav loves some Red Lobster, and he is not letting Red Lobster get lost at sea without a fight because he's spending his hard-earned money all in an effort to save them. He went to a Red Lobster and bought everything in the store. They had a whole spread. He literally bought everything. And but more importantly, Flavor Flav is now in talks to buy the franchise. He said he was going to do something about it. I mean, look at the spread. He said he ate a lot of the him. He had his kids, some of his kids with him. He was able to take some home to those who did not make the Flavor Flav feast, but he was absolutely serious. But Flavor, it's been his MO of late. Remember, he is the official sponsor now for the U.S. Women's Olympic water polo team as they attempt to win a gold medal in Paris this summer. It happened because of the fact that one of the team members had posted online that the difficulties in raising the money to train, raising the money to go to Paris and compete. And Flav said, I got you. Have your people call my people. And they got together and Flav wrote the check. And this is what you do. And I watch, if you have Twitter, Flav's on Facebook as well. But if you have Twitter, check out stuff that is written often on Twitter about Flavor Flav. And one of the things that might catch your attention, because he gets, like everybody else, he has detractors, even when he's doing something like funding the women's Olympic water polo team, talking about buying Red Lobster. He has his detractors, and folks will come at him with stuff like, gosh, I can't believe that anybody would pay any attention to Flavor Flav. I mean, real crazy stuff and real disrespectful stuff. The man's minding his own business. And he will respond by simply saying, look, if you knew me, you know I'm living my best life. And people use that phrase, I'm living, such and such living their best life. But Flavor is a recovering addict. And he is truly having fun and using his fame for the greater good. He's using it not to benefit himself, but to benefit others. He recognizes his place in history, and he recognizes the fact that everywhere he goes, people know him. I mean, we've seen him with Willie Nelson. In fact, Chuck calls him the Willie Nelson of hip hop. We've seen him with Willie Nelson. We've seen him at NASCAR. We've seen him here. We've seen him everywhere. And he's always hugging folks because he's one of those types. You have a friend or a family member who you can't shake their hand. You got to hug them. And that's Flavor Flav. He doesn't go for the handshake. He goes for the hug. And there's something to be said about that. I mean, it could be annoying to some folks, but this is a man who has embraced his celebrity, embraced his sobriety, and is doing some things that folks who probably are much more famous than he is should probably consider. Power 96 down in the deep south, they don't consider Red Lobster real seafood, but he says good luck to Flavor Flav. Yeah, a lot of people say that. I'm not a big Red Lobster fan. It's one of those places that was available to us in the community. We go, you can find a Red Lobster everywhere, especially, in New York. Find a Red Lobster here. And it was like a place you go to have a sit-down dinner. It wasn't many places like that. Some people might think about like Beefsteak Charlie's. One of our favorites as a kid was a place that no longer exists. They used to call Cookies Steak Pub. That used to be the joint, as they say. But nonetheless, congratulations to Flavor Flav, and hopefully I mean, if he does proceed with this deal with Red Lobster, hey, he's somebody you would want to support because he uses his, like I said, his fame and his money for good. So support Red Lobster. If you like Red Lobster, support it anyway. But if this deal goes through, if he does consummate in this deal with the folks at Red Lobster, yeah, it won't hurt to stop in. You will never be able to complain about the biscuits. That's for sure. You'll never be able to complain about it. You can complain about the lobster, the fish, or whatever, but not the biscuits. So support Flavor Flav, y'all. Follow him on social media. You'll be glad you did because it's a whole screen looking at some of the stuff he's been doing and listening to him talk about certain topics. Really interesting guy, Flavor Flav. I tell you what else you could do online too is subscribe to the Let It Be Known's YouTube page. Aunt Pam said it's the biscuits for me with 3 exclamation points. But share your thoughts with us and get back. And listen, let me know what y'all think about Touré saying, and I agree, that Off the Wall is the better album than Thriller. Later this month, and we're going to talk more about this in just a couple of weeks. We are certainly not going to miss the 15th anniversary of the unfortunate death of the King of Pop. It's coming up. It's been 15 years. So we're going to talk about that in depth in a couple of weeks about Michael Jackson 15 years ago, which means that Michael Jackson would be 65 years old. Can you imagine Michael Jackson, 65 years old? I'm sure, certainly his family wishes that they could see him at 65 years old. We all wish we could see Michael Jackson at 65 years old. Yes, Dr. Nicole, time does fly. 15 years. And I'll go more into that, how his death and on a personal note turned my life upside down for almost an entire year. I mean, it felt like longer than that, but my wife will tell you all about that herself. How we were it was just chaos, and we're not family members of the Jacksons, and they'll happily tell you that. You're not family, but it turned our lives upside down. I'll tell you all about that, and that'll come up later this month on Let It Be Known. We'll talk about that and why his death. And I just remember, I'll share this anecdote. I remember a few weeks after he died, my wife said to me, she says, no one has, with all this going on, and then, so much was going on. No one's asked you how you feel. No one's asked you, are you okay? And I thought, wow. See, that's what a Black woman does. Not that white women wouldn't do it for their husbands. I just love my Black women. I do. But thanks so much for continuing to join Let It Be Known. And we are going to see you tomorrow. Greer and I got a date at the White House today. So we're going to be hanging out over there this afternoon doing what we do. And we will bring you some more stuff and perhaps some anecdotes from our Wednesday trip to Pennsylvania Avenue. We'll see you tomorrow.